Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Leo's Book Club. Leo, welcome to your book club.
Yes, thank you.
Today, Leo is going to be reviewing What Your Donor Wants and Why, The Ultimate Guide to Successful Fundraising Communications by the one and only Tom Ahern. Leo, I will jump back in when you've done your review. It's over to you to tell us what the key moments of this book and what all fundraisers would want to know.
Okay, no problem. Well, that's the book. And I've got to say, Tom Ahern writes in just a very easy reading style. It's such an easy book to read. It's interesting from my point of view that one of the but one of the issues I see in fundraising today is that we don't hear enough about the key principles that are special or unique to fundraising. Ken Burnett, in his book Zen and Fundraising, does go through some of the key principles, but we don't often, I think, hear about or see or listen to those key principles which make fundraising unique and special as a profession. So, which is why I love this book by Tom Ahern, What Your Donors Want and Why. And it's subtitled The Ultimate Guide to Successful Fundraising Communications. And the reason why I like this book so much is that I don't know if you notice here on the side, I mean, literally every chapter of his book I've marked off in terms of key principles that over 43 years I have myself, I've seen it work. And so I just find this book, I think it's so valuable. In fact, to the point where I believe it should be in just about every fundraiser's library there, because it does articulate one of the key principles that we follow in fundraising, what makes fundraising special. And one of the things that I find in this book as well is that the way Tom Ahern describes these principles is very much in story form, and such an easy read at the same time. Let me just quote one chapter. This is chapter 5, and it's titled How to Improve First Time Donor Retention. And we know donor retention is a key issue in fundraising. And chapter 5, he talks about, and he's quoting Stephen Pidgeon from the UK. And he says, Stephen Pidgeon makes this point: is the fundraiser's job, your only job, to make the supporter feel good about supporting your charity. You have to love your donors and the money will follow. The only thing that matters a damn is the donor experience. If we got that right, we'd never be in this situation. I still don't understand why so many organizations adopt fundraising for brand awareness and an addiction to interruption recruitment techniques. The result is that we have a massive pool of people who at best tolerate how fundraisers treat them. And I've got to say, so true, so true. And there's just so much. I'm not going to go chapter by chapter, of course, but I'm serious when I say every chapter in Tom Ahern's book, there are key principles that he talks about that I believe every fundraiser should know, should be aware of. And therefore, that's why I highly recommend this book. Like, for example, he says in chapter 9, talks about donor centricity. He said, for him, it's the only secret he knows, the increasing giving. Again, I'm not going to read every chapter, but I just just want to highlight some of the things that I found absolutely amazing and fascinating. And I've got to say, as I read each chapter, and I highlight some of the key principles that he talks about here, I just went, oh yeah, absolutely. And not only that, I suppose over the years when I've been teaching fundraising, it's one I just include these principles in my teaching, and I think every fundraiser should be aware of them. I'll just read a couple of things here that he's got a section here, which is in what chapter? What's the chapter? Chapter 12. Why you actually matter to donors. There. And he talks about an essential exercise for non-essential non-profits. What if we disappeared tonight? Gather half a dozen or more stakeholders in a room, staff, board, donors too, if you can, and pose this problem. Let's pretend our organization and its programs disappear tonight. Tomorrow we're gone. What will the world, the community, individuals regret having lost? And I've often used that principle when I've been talking with an organization in terms of what the case for support. And I'd come down to, often will say to them, well, what if you don't exist? What would the result of that be? And how would you articulate what would happen if you don't exist? And the answer to that can often help define why you need to exist and the purpose of why you exist. So there are so many principles in here, and I just can go on and on and on. I mean, I can just, every chapter, and in total, there are I think it's 46 chapters there altogether, 45 chapters. And I love the ending. He sort of has one last pep rally, and he gives us a little pep talk for fundraisers, which I just think is just delightful. So highly recommend this book. Even if you're an experienced fundraiser, it's just good to see the principles that you practice articulated in such an easy to read style.
Brilliant. I had to kind of turn my camera on at that moment, because that is a tool. Without having read that book, I will read that book now. Yes. It's so when you are strategizing and you say, even to your board, to your team, to everyone, what if we didn't exist? It is so powerful, but also quite amazing how hard people find to give you an impactful answer that would resonate with someone that wants to give you money. It's and so this book, Leo, I was going to call you Tom, is this book for fundraisers who are in a particular area of fundraising? Is this people who are in, regular giving or copywriting, or is this for a fundraiser across any area of specialty expertise?
Oh, I think it's for all fundraisers, because these are principles. These are principles that don't change over time. That's what makes principles versus things best practice, which does change. These are principles which never change. And so I think it's for everybody, even people who are experienced fundraisers. It's good to see those principles articulated in a way. I think it's especially
to know whether, and to reconfirm that you're on the right path. I think instinct, once you've learned your instinct over many years, it's nice to be reminded that your instinct is growing in the way that it should be.
And it's articulated. It's stated there for people. I also think, particularly people who are relatively new to fundraising, I think it's important that they read this book, that they understand what is it special about fundraising, one of the key principles that drive us as fundraisers.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I don't know where else you would get those kind of principles.
Yeah.
Personally, I
And-
don't.
Yeah, and so a lot of fundraisers, I think, struggle with articulating. They know these principles, but when it gets to senior management, SLT, or then onto the board, would this be a good book for one, referencing and kind of commenting on, but also to give to these people?
Oh, absolutely, because it's such an easy book to read.
Yeah.
And in a typical Tom Ahern style, very story driven there. But absolutely.
And is it a book you need to read from beginning to end, or can you jump chapter to chapter?
Oh, you can read it. You can obviously jump to chapter to chapter, but because each chapter has key principles,
Yeah.
In my view, you need to read the whole book.
Yeah.
There to get the whole gamut of what the fundraising principles are. It's just that there are not enough of those kind of books around or material around, which is
Yeah.
why I'm so excited about seeing a book like this.
And tell me, do you know when this book was first printed?
Yes, it was first printed in 2018.
Oh, wow. So yes, it's a relatively new book.
It is a relatively new book, but I mean, I would suggest that even if this book was 20, 30, 40 years, it's still going to be relevant. It's not going to change. The principles don't change because and the reason why principles are principles is because they relate to who we are as human beings. And so those principles apply whether you're in Australia, and I've done a lot of fundraising in Asia, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Principles apply there just as much as they would apply here or in the US or anywhere.
Yeah.
They apply because underneath the skin, we're all the same. We're all human.
Yep, we absolutely are. And no advances in technology will change that. Like you said, it's about the experience.
And even if the changes of technology, the principles can still be applied across any medium. Principles are applicable across everything that you do. Yeah.
At the very beginning there, you commented that, what's special or unique to fundraising. And it's something I was asked about recently on a radio interview I had to do around GoFundMe and, the challenge of GoFundMe versus traditional charitable giving. And it led me to do a bit of research actually into the GoFundMe space, which I found, or to that form, not GoFundMe particularly, but that form of giving. And although I don't think it's a big threat, the data shows that it's money that's generally being gifted to close friends and family. I think what charities do need to up their game in is making it an experience that they enjoy. People, it's about the world is that instant gratification, the instant ability to feel good and do something to help someone with a real strong story or connection to them, and to receive regular real updates. And I think that's what I learned from it is if charities want to kind of compete in this kind of space, it's back to the very first thing, make giving easy, enjoyable experience, then there is no threat.
Absolutely. It's in the book Achieving Excellence in Fundraising, they talk about in there the joy of giving. Yeah. That's what fundraising is.
Yes, I don't know if there's such a thing as true altruism. I think we do everything to make ourselves feel good, whatever that might be, to help someone or to give something. It's to actually help ourselves, Yeah,
absolutely. Well, there's enough research now which has been done, scientific research, which just shows that money brings happiness when you give it away.
Yeah,
and that's scientific evidence. It's not just anecdotal.
I love chatting to you as always, Leo. Yes. Thanks for your book club review this time. Have you got any giveaways of what you might be reviewing for us next time?
Yes, I'm going to go completely different next time. I'm going to go down this path. It's a textbook by Adrian Sargent and Jane George, Fundraising Management. This is the latest edition, the 4th edition. on analysis, planning, and practice. And it's literally a textbook on fundraising.
It is a big book by the looks of it.
Yes. I mean, and one of the reasons why I want to do that is to show that there is a body of knowledge that exists in fundraising.
Yeah.
So that body of knowledge exists in textbooks like this, and this is a textbook.
Yeah.
And it's important to understand that because it helps to identify us as a profession.
Yes.
And there's a number of books of part of the body of knowledge, and I just want to share that in that context.
No, that's great. It would be great to have a different style of book next time on our next book club. Well, Leo, thank you very much again for joining us in Leo's book club today. As always, we will put information about Leo's book and by the author and links to where you can buy it in the hub. And until next time, that's all from Leo's book club this time. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Michelle.
Bye.
Bye.